friends, it's Mari here. I have a real-time video here for you today, so I'm not going to be speeding anything up or doing any voiceovers today. I'm just going to bring you a, not live, but a, it's not sped up or edited, so it's real time. And I wanted to just go through my process with you today. And I hope you enjoy this. I hope we have a chance to share some inspiration here today. And I've got this photo that I'm going to be scrapping. This is a 3x3 photograph. And I have edited this in Lightroom. I took it through and I increased the exposure a little bit. I desaturated it, I dehazed it, I increased the clarity and the sharpening on it, and just kind of created a really soft look to the photo. I really wanted to capture the idea that these girls are on this suspension bridge here. So what I did was I kind of cropped it so that it is showing that suspension bridge in the background behind them here. And love this photo. This is my daughter here and three of her pals from nursing school, and they call themselves the Fab Four. They had a chance to get together this summer and have a bit of a visit. So yeah, I just wanted to document that today. Now, I did a little bit of stash diving today as well. And although this isn't an old collection, it's a collection that I have had in my stash for a couple months now, and I really haven't used any of it yet. The main reason why I bought the Heidi Swapp, the not old school, obviously, but this is the Storyline and Chapters collection, is because I really wanted to work in her on the new mini album setup that she has. And I did purchase those little albums and I've started in them. The one layout that I've done in there so far, I did on Patreon, not on my regular channel, but the collections are beautiful. They're really, really pretty. So I did purchase some art walk and some of this collection. What I really, really like from these collections are these project pads. I think these are so cool. If you haven't seen these, they're very, very neat. And it does tell you here there's 122 pieces in these project pads, and you just get such a really cool variety of products. So here there are some stickers. You get a couple sheets of stickers. These ones are kind of a little bit more clear, not completely clear, but they've got a little bit of a clear element to them. Can't seem to peel that one off right now, but so this one, for example, just show you here if I can peel this off, you can see that this is clear. So these are going to be really, really great for the mini album, the Heidi Swapp mini album, and I plan to use these in there. But I also wanted to challenge myself today to use some of these products on a 12x12 layout as well, because I know that I'm going to have more than enough of these products to use in the mini album. So this next sheet is more like a cardstock sticker, so it's not clear. And then there's a bunch of tags on the next sheet, which is very cool. There's some cut aparts here on this next one, and then you get into some patterned papers. And these pattern papers are single-sided, and they're all within that same design of this particular collection. That's part of that storyline that she came out with. I love this rainbow paper, that boho rainbow, super cool. The ledger paper or notepad paper. Some really kind of distressed looking cardstock pages. So I have this paper pad for the project, this project pad. And then I do have the 12x12 project pad as well. And then I have some of just the regular 12x12 papers. For this one, I also have the stamp set, which I thought I might be able to use on this layout here today. And then, of course, I have lots of the other embellishments besides these cardstock stickers. I love how Heidi's cardstock sticker sheets always have labels on the back side. Oftentimes she includes gold accents, which I really love. Super huge fan of everything that she comes out with. We were supposed to meet her this fall at Create and Inspire in Toronto, but of course with COVID that event was postponed until 2021. So I'm definitely looking forward to meeting Heidi Swapp at that event when it happens in Toronto. Definitely will be fangirling at that moment for sure. I also today want to use some of the magicals on my project. This is the Alexandra's Artists collection from Lindy's Stamp Gang, and I have those pulled out on my table here. So this includes Karen's Coral, Janice Jade, Martina's Gold, and Andrea's Azalea. I'm not going to be using Lara's Wild Mauve, just because that doesn't really fit with the color palette in the Heidi Swapp collection that I wanted to use. But I added in the Shabby Turbine Teal, which is from the Industrial Chic collection, which is pretty new to my Lindy's stash. I really like this one. I ordered this directly from Lindy's Stamp Gang. But you can find these on Amazon, and I know a Cherry on Top has had these in the past too. I'll try to remember to link up to where you can find these, but this Industrial Chic one, I'll just grab the swatch for that. It is so cool. This is how I tend to swatch out my Lindy's. So this is a Bristol Smooth cardstock, or actually I think this is Strathmore mixed media paper. And what I do is I just swatch them out like this, and then I put the collection at the top. So this is all the Industrial Chic, but you can see here the Steel Shimmer. Here's that Shabby Turbine Teal, which I pulled, and I just thought that really that tone of green looks really nice with the green that's in Heidi's collection there. It also includes Rusty Lantern Lime, Time Travel Teal, and Steampunk Sepia. So also just a really, really beautiful collection of colors from Lindy's Stamp Gang. Another product that's pretty darn similar to the Magicals is the Nouveau Shimmer Powder. If you have the Nouveau Shimmer Powders in your stash as well, I know these have been really popular too. These are really similar to the Lindy's Stamp Gang Magicals. So, I mean, obviously, if you'd like to do a technique similar to what I'm going to do today, you know, use whatever you have in your stash that might be similar. I mean, even just watercolors, and you can achieve something similar to what I'm going to be doing here with the techniques. Now, I really thought it would be cool to try to use some stencils today. I pulled a couple of stencil sets. I've got the Tim Holtz mini stencils in set 46 and set 7. Set 46 is these ones with the circle and then kind of like the cheesecloth look and the mermaid's tail sort of thing. And set 7 has these grungy looking circles, the houndstooth, and then these numbers. I don't really know which one I'm going to use or which ones. I haven't thought about it a ton. I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to come on here today. I'm going to scrap. I don't really have a ton of plans for what I want to do. I had a few ideas, obviously, of some products that I wanted to use, but as far as the design that I'm going with today and that sort of thing, that's just definitely going to evolve, and you're just going to come on that little journey with me today. So the paper that I'm using for my base is some Basil cardstock. This is Basil Marshmallow. It's a pretty heavy weight cardstock, and it is good for doing some mixed media. What I did to prep my Basil cardstock paper is I used some Finnabair Art Basics clear gesso, and I just spread that out using my good old trusty Art Basics spatula here. This is a silicone brush, which is pretty cool. Really, really easy to clean. But to be honest with you, something else that would work really well that's super cheap is just an old card from your wallet that you're not using anymore, something that's expired, and you can just spread your gesso on nicely with that. What I find works really well with this particular gesso is doing more than one layer of it. I find that if you do just one layer of that and let it dry, sometimes it doesn't quite protect the paper enough, and you'll get some seepage through the gesso onto the paper. So I don't know if that's just because of the quality of this gesso, I'm not really sure, or if it's something to do with the basil paper, but I have experimented a little bit with it, and I do find that it works better to let a coat dry and then do another coat on that and let that dry. And then what I did to take the warping out of my paper is I ran it through my Royal laminator, which does really make it smooth out fairly flat. And when I put this into my album into the page protector, it is going to flatten out. There's a few other things that you can do to get it to flatten out. For example, you could put a frame of patterned paper as like a frame, a mat behind your layout, and then do a little bit of stitching with your sewing machine, and that will flatten it out really nicely as well. You could also just adhere with your tape runner another piece of cardstock to the back and then just press down really firmly on it, and that will also flatten it out really well for you also. So there's a few techniques that you can use that will flatten out the paper once you've added some gesso to that. So just a couple of little tips with regards to mixed media and what you can do there. Now what I do, and I'm going to stop for a second and raise my camera up here. Just hang on. I just forgot that I had my camera set for card making. What I do when I'm going to be using my Lindy's is I will put my water over here to the side, and then I do have a container here that has wells in it, and in those wells I'm just going to squirt some water with my water bottle here. This is just my distress bottle, but you know, you could use whatever. And I see that there's probably some residue from other colors in here, which will make it interesting because we're probably going to get some contamination, but that's okay. This isn't a Van Gogh piece of art for the Louvre. This is a scrapbooking layout, so I'm not really too worried about it. Okay, I like to keep my Vicki Boutin art brushes on my table. These are just a really great crafter's grade art brush, watercolor brush. I love the nice tip on them. I like that there's a variety of sizes in this set. I do not know if these are still available. Maybe Vicki in her next collection will come out with another set. I'm not really sure. I've heard her talking about that, so I'm just wondering if maybe that isn't what's going to happen. But I do like to just have these brushes on my desk because that's what I'm going to use. That's my go-to. Now I am going to think about where I'm going to place this photo. I'm thinking probably kind of like in this area here somewhere. I don't want it necessarily right in the very center. I think I'd like to offset it here a little bit and just kind of have it over here to the side, sort of like in an interesting placement. It seems as though these girls are all kind of like looking this way perhaps. It might be a little bit odd if it was placed over on this side, just because of the angle that they're standing at and where they're looking. It seems like having it placed over slightly to the side here might be a little bit more interesting in that way. The nice thing about doing something like that instead of centering it directly in your paper is it sometimes that just makes it feel like well, the whole idea of the rule of thirds, right? When you're taking a photograph, oftentimes it's better not to just place your photo directly in the center, but put it sort of like off to the side a little bit to allow for the movement of your eye around the focal point, and then try to kind of include all of the other little elements that you're putting in there. If you can imagine your grid in sort of like each little sector that's going to intersect with this photo, if that makes sense. So I'm thinking kind of like down here in the bottom half, and that'll give me lots of room maybe to do some title work up above. I can still do lots of mixed media here and do a little bit of embellishing here and some more embellishing and journaling maybe over to this side. Like I said, I don't really have any idea what I'm going to do as far as the design goes. I'm just going to roll with it here today and see what we can come up with. So thinking of the photo being over here, I'm imagining that I'm going to want some mixed media kind of like behind it in this area. So I'll move my photo here to the side, and I'm going to just take my sprayer and I'm going to spritz some water, not too much, just a little bit onto there. And then I'm going to grab, thinking Jana's Jade. I love this color. And my brush is wet so that when I dip it into the pot of powder, it's gonna grab it. And then I'm just gonna take that over into one of my little wells here and activate that powder, and that color is going to be good to go. So I'm just going to put this back on and go ahead and start working with the Jana's Jade. So I'm just going to drop it into where that water is. Just let it flow. And just pick the paper up and let it move around where that water is a little bit. And I am a pretty light-handed scrapbooker as far as color goes. I don't tend to get too heavy-handed with the color. Just add a few little sprinkles on there. I always like to have a wet wipe handy too, because that's going to just grab anything and take it right off if I don't like the shape of it or the placement of it. And now that's just going to move around on my paper. And if I decide that I'm going to dry that up with some paper towel, it's going to become even lighter. So what we can do is just even be really brave and take a little bit more and just add it directly onto the paper. And what you're going to see there is that's going to actually reveal the different pigments that are in Jana's Jade. So when you mix Jana's Jade directly with water and you mix it all up, you don't get to see necessarily all of the different pigments, but when you just put the powder in there directly onto the paper and in the water, look, you can see there's a little bit of purple, there was some yellow in there at one point. Now it's kind of mixing together, right? Because it's hitting the water. But oh, these powders are just so pretty. I love them. I love working with them. I'm kind of addicted. So that's just moving around on there. And just looking to see how much water I have on there. And I actually can take my paper towel. And I will show you. If you just take the paper towel and you sop up the moisture like that, see how much of the pigment disappears? So you really just have to play around with, and you can see the pattern of the paper towel there. You really just have to play around with, how deep you want the color to be. So now you can hardly even see it on there, right? So just showing you how to go ahead and add that pigment on there. So now I've mixed up a little bit more. It's a little bit darker. Put a little bit more water on there just because I soaked most of it up with a paper towel, but I'm just trying to show you how you can add this on, take it off, make it darker, make it lighter, whatever you want. And I don't know if you can see that sparkle and shimmer in there, but that's the composition of the Magical. So super pretty, really pretty. Now I'm just going to soften up the edges of that color a little bit, and I'm just going to turn the camera off, and I'm just going to let this dry for a minute or two. I'll see you back. Okay, so I think we're mostly dry there. I really want to use some of this Karen's Coral. Such a pretty color. It's kind of like a peachy pink. It's beautiful. You can see it as it's mixing up there. There's like a fuchsia tone in it, some gold. It's really, really pretty. So here you can also see, I just want to show you, I did a little bit of splattering there too, and you can see how that dried, but it's just beautiful. Gorgeous. And that might get mixed in with the Karen's coral, who knows? It's all good. We're just playing. But this is just so pretty, and it just looks, it's gonna look so nice with this, right? It's a perfect tone. So you can see in there, there's some little lighter spots where the blue kind of didn't pool. I'm gonna mix a little bit of that pink in there, or the coral, I guess. And you know, we're gonna add, obviously we're gonna add the photo and lots of other things on here. So lots of this is gonna get covered up, and that's fine. And then we can go and add more if we need to, and so on and so forth. And so goes the process, right? That is the nature of it. I've got the smaller brush here, and I can just go ahead and add some splatters with that. And like I said, if it works its way outside of the area where you want it, you can just take your wet wipe and pick that up. Now we can go back after and add more in and whatever. So yeah, I love how this is looking. I love these colors. They're so pretty. Just gonna let that flow around a little bit. Beautiful. Really, really super pretty. So just thinking about my photo again here. And I know that I would really like to add some of this Martinez gold, and I was thinking about adding some of the shabby turbine teal, but it remains to be seen, right? We'll see how it looks and just what I decide I want to do here. You can just see the pooling of the color there. It's beautiful. Now another thing that you can do is you can grab your heat tool and you can heat this to dry it. And this can be run through the laminator again. Hopefully you could hear me okay. In that last segment, I realized I forgot to plug in my external mic here. But yeah, you can just let this dry with your heat tool. And the thing is that it's going to, you're going to have a little bit more control with your heat tool, in the sense that you can lift your paper up and let that flow around. And wherever it's pooling and drying, it's going to be darker. And I can run this through my laminator again to flatten it out a little bit more after, if it ends up getting pretty warped, which I can see that it is getting a little bit more warped with the heating process using the heat tool. And that's just the nature of what happens to your paper when you heat it. It'll warp a little bit more. It's better to let it dry naturally, but like I said, if you've got a way to flatten it out, it's not a big deal. And I do really think you get a cool effect when you dry it with the heat tool. See all these interesting lines? It's almost like looking at a geode. It's really cool. I like how that looks. So this is what we've got so far. You can see that it's picking up the colors of the sweaters in there with that pink, and I can see how we're moving now more towards the bottom corner instead of this area here. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Then that allows you to do maybe like a cluster up here more, or do some detail with your top. And I like that, the idea of that design as well. So I'm just kind of looking at this and I'm wondering where I want to add the yellow. And I'm thinking maybe just a little bit over here. So once again, I'm going to grab my large brush. I'm just going to rinse it out a little bit and take most of the moisture out of it. I'm going to grab that Martinez Gold, and I'm going to put it in a pot that already has kind of like a yellow in it. I'm not going to wet my paper. I'm just going to add this on dry so that you can see that too. Totally an option. But the thing is that it's just going to sit there in that spot. So if there was water on there, it would flow into where the water is, just like if you're using a wet on wet watercolor method. But with the dry paper, it's just going to kind of more sit in that area. You have a little bit more control, I guess, in a way. And I'm okay with that too, because I don't really want it to go over that way too far. Might just add a little bit up in some of those areas, just to make it a little bit more unified with the different colors. Okay, just gonna let that dry. Now I just went ahead and added some splatters of that Martinez Gold here, and you can see how pretty that looks and how shimmery it is. Now I will just say that if the shimmery look's not your thing, you may decide that you want to use something that's a flat pigment. And if you want to stick with the Lindy's, you can get the Lindy's in flat. So you don't have to get the shimmer magicals. You can also purchase them in the flat. So this is that Shabby Turbine Teal that I've mixed up here, which is just a beautiful teal color. And I don't really think I want to add it as, you know, one of the layers of main color here, but I'm thinking I just would like to add a few splatters just to pick up on that color. And I just think that looks so pretty. I love that. Guys, don't laugh, but another way that you can sop up your excess moisture is with toilet paper. And I actually kind of like using toilet paper even better than paper towel because this is biodegradable. You can flush this, whereas the paper towel you can't. So I feel like it's almost like even a little bit more environmentally friendly to use the paper towel. Am I right there or am I wrong? I don't know. It seems logical to think in that way, but I don't know. You let me know. I know some people who had trouble finding toilet paper in the early onset of the pandemic are probably cringing that I might be using this to sop up color. Anyway, so I like how that just brings in just a really subtle little bit of that teal pigment. I think that's going to be really pretty, and if we decide to use some of the teal from that collection, then that's just going to look really nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this and run it through my laminator so that you can see the difference of before laminator and after. So you can see how there's a little bit of warping with that paper. It's got a little bit of bubbling in it. So I'm going to take that in and run that through. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the stencil chosen that I want to use, and I'm kind of just like figuring out where I want my stenciling to be in conjunction with my photo. So I am actually going to use some of the Heidi Swapp Mink white texture paste, and we're going to do a little bit of minking, a little bit of foiling. I don't have a mink. I'd like one. I just have a laminator that works, but let's try some of this. And I just want kind of a random pattern. So you can see I've just got a little bit of texture there, not too much. And I don't want to cover up all of my magicals, right? So I'm going to kind of maybe go up there a little bit. Let's get a little bit on with my Nuvo spatula here. And we can always go back and add more after once we get this done and see what it looks like. Okay, so I am going to wash up my stencil and my spatula and I'll be back. Okay, so our texture paste is all dry. I did let it dry for, I don't know, probably about 10 minutes or so. And I was thinking about using this really pretty mint green. What do you think? I don't want to add, I thought about gold, but I just feel like it would be too much. So this is kind of subtle. And if we take a look at the colors here, I think it would be really pretty. So let's try it. Let's go for it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut a couple of strips like that. Just going to go on there like that. And then I'm going to run this through my laminator. And if you have a mink, you can use your mink. I don't have a ton of the Heidi Swapp foils. I have a few colors. They're gorgeous. But I really like this mint green. Okay, so I'm going to run this through my laminator and I'll check back with you when I get it done. Okay, are we ready for the big reveal? Ooh, so pretty. I knew that it was going to be really subtle. I've used this foil before and it also almost kind of looks like silvery or something, but I really love it. That's gorgeous. It just adds a certain little something extra on there, right? I like that. I think that's cool. So going back to our photo, and now what I was thinking of is adding possibly these papers for some layers behind. And I'm thinking probably this pink initially. And before I do that, I want to distress the edges of my photo. With my distressing tool. I'm being pretty aggressive with this, which is okay. I want it to look roughed up. You could even take a little bit more of the border off. I'm just looking at it and I'm wondering if I shouldn't do that. Should be okay. We'll try this. And then just going to go in and do some distressing with this paper too. Yes, love it. Kind of got a grungy look to it. Just run this on a couple sides. I like that. And you can see, like, we're going to add embellishments and whatnot through here too. And so that foiling is just going to kind of peek out around with the magicals and that beside it. Just wondering about where I'm going to place this photo. I haven't really fully decided that yet. It might be better up there just because there's no kind of, the end of that's kind of weird. And then maybe do some journaling or titling. Not sure. Don't know. We'll see. But I do like that, these papers for the photo layer. I like this distress dot. It's a really cool paper, right? One of the things that really appeals to me about Heidi's designs is like, I very much like that subtle distressing in the background, but her stuff is soft. And so that's, you know, that's kind of my style, right? I like the mixed media, but I like the soft, I like it to have a little bit of a soft nature to it rather than a harder edge. And that looks really nice with this particular photograph too, right? So I'm loving how that's looking. I think it's very interesting. I was thinking about adding some stamping to this, but with that foiling, I don't really know if we're going to need it. The stamp I was thinking about using was that one that I had showed you earlier, which is now buried on my table. I'm just checking for it here. Just hang on. I was thinking about using this, but you know what? I'm now thinking maybe I might use something from Tim Holtz, like something like these numbers here. That's kind of subtle. Or maybe this text piece right here. That may be kind of interesting down at the bottom. But I think what popped out at me most were those numbers. And like I could see that maybe just really in a subtle way down here and maybe over here somewhere. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a stamping block and we're going to try that. Thing that I would always say too, if people are afraid to try some of the techniques on a scrapbooking layout, is it's just paper. You know, we can, if you ruin it, you can cover it up. You can, you know, you can start over if you absolutely hate it. Like, it's just paper. So I'm just going to grab a piece of scrap from my stash here. And I think I'm going to use VersaFine Clair Morning Mist. It's a gray, and it's just really, really neutral. And I always like to stamp on a piece of cardstock first and stamp a few times off and see which generation of stamping I like the best. And to me, I think the third generation is probably the best, right? So stamping it that third time. So I'm going to ink it up again, stamp it once, stamp it twice, and the third time I'm going to stamp on my project. Okay, and it's really subtle. You can hardly see it, but it's there, and it just adds a little bit of extra interest. See that? Love it. I think that's super cool. So now we'll place our photo back down there, and you can see there, that just adds that little bit of extra something, and you can still see the magicals underneath. This didn't disrupt the magicals in any way because the magicals are dry, and this is not a super wet medium. This is a pigment ink, so it's going to dry a little bit more slowly, but I didn't put it on there super thick. But as far as layering things one on top of the other, no problem layering your pigment ink over top of the magicals. So you can see it just kind of blends in there. And I also mentioned maybe stamping up here at the top, and I think it's probably still wet enough to add that up there, and it is. And now you can see there's just a little bit of extra detail up there too. I love that. I think that looks super cool. And we're going to add layers on top of this of paper products from that collection. So this is all just going to be part of the background. I'm just going to clean my stamp a little bit here with a wipe. And sorry, my table is wiggling, and I'll just set that aside, and we're ready to move on to the next step, which is to get some of these layers here, first of all, stack down and check out what we have for embellishments. So I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape. I don't mind using the craft foam. The thing you have to be really careful with about the craft foam is when you add the liquid adhesive to the back of the craft foam so that the craft foam can stick to the next layer. sometimes it can really warp whatever it is that you're adding it to. So you just have to be careful about that. And I'm just using some double-sided foam tape here so that there's no adhesive, liquid adhesive required there. Between these two layers, I don't necessarily need an extra bit of dimension. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of tape runner to that and stick that down to that. Now my photo layers are ready to start adding some and building some other things on top of this. So going back to the collection, I have all of these, I'm just going to set the layout aside, all of these die cut pieces that potentially could be used here. Lots and lots of pieces, tons of pieces. I think I actually ended up getting a couple packs of die cuts that are the same, just because like I love her stuff so much, and you can use it on, you know, not just with this collection, like something like that, right? That's super useful for anything that you might be working on. It's just gold and white. So this is, I love that. That's neutral and really nice. It's a nice piece. So what I would do is just go through all of these bits and pick out some things that I really love. Bad vibes don't go with the outfit. That's cute. That actually might work. I'm going to take that and put it over there. I don't necessarily really want anything florally, but that's to be determined, I guess. These photo corners are kind of cool. Like that. Don't forget, you're awesome. I actually like this foliage piece. Just gonna set that aside. This has kind of got more of the, almost like a lavender tone. I didn't even realize there was any lavender in here. Remember how I said no to the Lara's Wild Mauve? Maybe. Definitely leaning towards those tags. I really love this little rainbow. I'm going to try to use that. Maybe status update. I really love this. And this piece could be used, or this one with the lines, as a layering piece behind our photo. I don't mind that vellum. This is so cool, hey? I'd like to save those pieces though for a mini album in the future. This tiny little floral might be okay. Another one of those foliage pieces. Love that. Love this people one. This Let's Do This is super cute. Like that, like that. I like everything, let's face it. Love that. This is that whole who, what, when, where, why. Like, awesome. But I don't think I will use that on this one. Quite a few floral pieces. I just love these little guys. I like this little heart. These arrows are good. I love this little label. And I think these are more of the same kinds of pieces, possibly. Or no, maybe they're different. Life is Sunshine and Rainbows, like that. Genuine. I don't know, those little ones. A smaller floral again. This Who might be kind of cute, because I was thinking of using the Fab 4 as a title. Another little floral. Another one of those little postage stamps. More photo corners. More of those little postage stamps. Another sun. A hashtag. Lots of good stuff, hey? go with the flow. That's cute. Here's another one of those. Okay, so there's a lot. I've got a lot in my possibilities pile. What I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to take it and put it in a little container. Oops, that was good. Put it in a little container. This is real time, people. Like this. And then these ones, I'm just going to put back in my Ziploc bag where the embellishments, other embellishments are. Those back. And we'll be in business to start thinking about embellishing. Okay, let's take a look at some of these embellishments. So this is a great tag. Love that. And I love that it's in those pink tones again. So possibly this. And we had grabbed some of these tabs out of there. And I like how that gold picks up on the magicals there too. I think that's super pretty. We had pulled this kind of aqua colored one. I don't know if I want to layer 2 tags there or not. I don't think so. We'll just go with the one for now. See how that looks. I did want to work in some of these foliage pieces just because I feel like it blends that foiling in a little bit too. I really like this unforgettable piece, and I like working in some of that the craft. So something like that might be kind of interesting on the corner. And I really like these little postage pieces. Those are so good. Maybe something like that. A little grouping like that, possibly. So I don't mind sort of like the general placement of those things. I kind of wanted this who piece over here. So I'm wondering if maybe this and then the title, the Fab Four, and possibly add some journaling strips maybe down here. Also, I was thinking of creating something up in this white space, right? So possibly something like this. Like I really like that. Bad vibes don't go with my outfit. I thought that was super cute. And then I had pulled this label, which kind of has that distress look again. And I kind of like the idea of maybe stapling and layering these pieces there. And maybe another one of these postage stamp pieces, something like that. I'm also thinking maybe like a tearaway area where you tear it. So maybe a tearaway area here and another tearaway area over here, or possibly up here. So diagonal maybe, so that this whole diagonal line is going to draw us right across through the photo area. But I love the white space, always do. And yep, I gessoed the whole paper and I only used mixed media down here in this area, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter. The nice thing about having put the gesso everywhere is that I had the opportunity to go anywhere with my mixed media and it would work. But I really just love the soft nature of this. I love the colors. I like how the colors that I've used here really complement the colors in the photograph. It's really soft, but there's so much texture and interest in the layers around the photo. And that's really the beauty of having something really simple and clean like this, is the focus is just right here. And that's exactly where you want it to be, right? So I'm going to get these things stuck down and I'll see you back. Okay, so I just let that hang over the edge a little bit. So I'm just going to trim that off. And there you can see these parts here. So I just used foam adhesive on this unforgettable stuck these little foliage pieces down with glue, and this little postage bit is foam adhesive on the back as well. And then just glued this in. I left the tag sticking up enough so that you could see the remember this moment that's on the tag. I actually would like to, I should have done this before, but I like to kind of distress the edges of that tag a little bit, just because that's kind of the look we're going for here. So I'm also thinking, remember, a little tearaway down here and a little tearaway up here. So we can go ahead and do that. I might do my title first. So who, and I think we want the Fab Four. Question is, what alphas do we want? We could use these and go with the craft that we already have here. Possibly. Just going to grab some wax paper. Sometimes it's easier for me to visualize how things are going to look when I actually lay them out. But I don't necessarily want to use the same kind of alphas for the word for. So I'm just going to grab something from my stash. Okay, I think I have a decision made about the alphas. I think it's going to be hashtag fab and then 4. And this is one of the stickers from the alphabet stickers from that chapter storyline collection. Super cool. They're just tiles and they are just a regular cardstock sticker, but I'm thinking I probably will pop this up on some foam adhesive so that the title will be Fab 4, kind of like that. Or Fab 4, that might be better because it tucks in then better to this cluster. Yeah, I like that placement better. Okay, so another thing I was thinking about doing is maybe adding one of these stamps up here. But when I was thinking about that, I was thinking it's too late because I've already got this stuck down and this stapled. So what I could do is put the stamp across the area where I'm going to do the tearaway. So let's go ahead and actually what I'm going to do is do the tearaway at the bottom first. So I think this seems like a logical spot to do that. Tear it there, and then the paper that I want to put in there is that paper that we used for that layer, I think, and that is on my desk somewhere. I think I see it. Buried. Here we go. So this, kind of like that. Yeah. So to do that, we're going to put a little bit of adhesive up here. Stick that in, press down, and I think we're going to add a couple staples just because there's staples there. It kind of goes along with that look there. Okay, so the tearaway there, we might do a little bit more detail with that. Let's just wait and see. And just going to grab my VersaFine ink again and a paper to stamp off. At this point, you can imagine what my desk looks like. Wow. Once, twice. Thinking right about here. Just give that a second to dry because that is pigment ink. It's going to take a little bit longer. I was wanting to use some of these cardstock stickers too. Just not really sure where or if it's going to work on this layout, but my thought was that I was going to do that. I liked this Meet the Squad. But I have an idea that I'm going to share with you before we leave today, so hold that thought. Okay, so we're going to go up here. Yep, looks like it's dry. I'm going to tear that away. Love that when there's text on there, right? I love that. That's the thing. Heidi's often got that detail on her papers, right? I think it looks really neat. Okay. Grab a staple. And now we're ready to just put these alphas down. Sorry if I just got my head in there. I'm probably going to have to go back after and add some glue to these, but I just want to show you for placement at this point. And then this guy, I think, should go up on some foam. That might be the right size. And if you don't, you know what, you can always make it a little bit wonky too if you want, which I'm always okay with. So you could go linear or you could go wonky. I think the linear probably looked better. But yeah, I like that. I think that's cool. I like how it's kind of tight in there. Fab 4, unforgettable, And now we're ready for some journaling. And what I'm going to do to add the journaling is just some journaling strips on my computer, type those out and stick them down, probably down here, just a few lines of journaling, nothing too, too detailed, just a little note of when and where this was. And that's going to be about it. So I really love how this turned out. I think one thing that I would like to add is some of these splatters up to this area here. We can quickly do that before I sign off here. And just add, I like to kind of cover that kind of stuff up. And I'm thinking probably some of the Martinez gold. You can even join the two sections by putting some splatters in between. So love how that looks. And I think the Jana's Jade would be another really good color for that area. And actually, even the Karen's Coral, I think too. But I don't want to put more on there without this drying. So I'm just going to dry this a little bit, not too much. With the heat tool, just a little bit. Then I'll take my toilet paper roll and now I'm just going to grab some of that Jana's Jade. Okay, so that's about it. We've got a few splatters added in these areas here. I also went up here and added another one of those foliage pieces that's of the same green tone up here. And I actually added one of those little flower die cut pieces in behind there and one kind of in there just to add a little bit more interest here. And actually I added that Who die cut up on some foam adhesive as part of the title. So Who #Fab4. And I just thought that finished it off nicely. So the whole layout's finished. Really love how this looks. I think it's really soft and pretty. Once again, just really love the white space and the flow, the eye line from this corner here down here. Could add a little bit of journaling down here with some journaling strips. And that'll finish the layout up. It's just got so much really pretty shimmer and shine to it. Another thing that you could do if you wanted to try this technique is add a little bit of foiling, just a tiny little bit up in this area to bring the foil up there. I mean, you wouldn't have to, but it would kind of make this a little bit more cohesive. I have this idea that I could turn this into a double page spread, and I'm thinking about doing that in our real-time video next week. If you're interested in that, let me know. Leave a comment in the description box below. Yes, I would like to see what you would do, how you would make this into a double page spread. Let me know if you're interested in, if you're those crafters, scrapbookers who almost always, virtually always make a double page spread. Let me know and we can talk about how we can double page this one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you as a new subby. If you like this, hit the thumbs up like button down below. Make sure you check the description box. I will link up to all of the products that I used today, as many of them as I can possibly find for you. So if you're interested in finding some of these, I do have affiliate links. You can use those links if you so choose. Thank you so much for sticking with me today. I know this is a super long video and you sure don't have to watch these long ones all in one sitting, but I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought of the longer video. This is a type of video that I do over on Patreon for my patrons, and they seem to enjoy that. So have an amazing day, everybody. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.